Episode 13 of The Bad Batch Season 3 is upon us. Into the Breach is the name of the episode. We got a special guest in the podcasting studio today. My son Ezra, who was named after Ezra Bridger. He's here and he's going to be having some fun in the background. But also joining us today is Mr. Tim Costello. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great. Glad to be back talking Bad Batch. How was your vacation?
I cannot wait to talk to you about this episode of The Bad Batch because we are getting so close to the last couple episodes. The finale of The Bad Batch, the entire series is coming up, Tim. It's bittersweet because we've spent so much time with these characters. It's going to be sad to say goodbye, but I do want to see what happens at the end.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
How does Omega play a bigger role? How does the M count and everything play a bigger role? And then my other question is, what is going to happen to the Bad Batch? Because we haven't seen them in any other media. So what is going to happen to our friends, Uncle Wrecker, Hunter, our crazy cousin Sniper, Crosshair? What's going to happen to all of these guys
Let's not forget
in
Uncle
the
Echo.
Bad Batch after? Uncle Echo, who we saw in this episode joining the crew once again.
Yes.
Tim, what did you think about Into the Breach?
I thought it was really great. The last episode was really good too. It's interesting that we're like almost going back to the beginning of the season a little bit.
Yes.
And because, before we were Crosshair was trying to escape Mount Tantus, and now he's going back to Mount Tantus, and seeing that admiral who tried to attack Camino, and them kind of joining forces with them. And I really loved this character, and seeing him kind of basically be dejected and forced to gain a smaller rank. Like they give him a suit and he's like, "You made me a captain? Really?" He was just so dejected. And
that was great.
And one of my favorite moments with this was Wrecker, and someone asked him, I can't remember who it was who was asking him about where what's his name? I can't remember his name.
He was coming to the ship and he's like, "Hey, this ship isn't. I need to see your records. I need to see the flight logs on this ship." Yeah, the Imperial officer. I don't know if they named him. But I know what you're talking about.
But the vice admiral, he's talking about him. It's like, "Oh, the captain is captaining."
Yes. That was great. That was one of the biggest laughs of the entire episode for me. And man, they're balancing the comedy and the drama of what's going on, like the high stakes of the Bad Batch kind of ending. Some really nice stuff here. And Echo being back on Tantus. I'm sorry, Omega being back on Tantus and back in the prison cell. What do you think? This whole season has just been kind of a runaround, like a filler to get to this point.
It would be easy to think that, but I think Omega is in a different place. Like everything she's learned since escaping Mount Tantus and what she wants to do.
Yes.
She has more of an initiative this time around, because before, the theme of dejection going here, at the beginning of the season, she really did feel dejected, and at her low point. Now she's like, okay, I know how to get out of here now, and I'm going to help us get out of here. And that was in last week's episode, but that was also in this week's episode with the other children, the Pantoran and the kitty baby and the green-skinned alien named Jack, who I am still going to call Beast Boy from now until the end of the show, because when I first saw this character, I'm like, oh, Beast Boy, like Beast Boy's race is canon to Star Wars. I love it. I'm here for it. They gave him a name.
It's crazy. We actually got names. I'm
probably still going to call him Beast Boy or Gar from here on out.
The Project Necromancer test subjects: Eva, Sammy, Baron, Bayrn, and then Jax. And I'm interested to see how all of these test subjects play into it, because we found out in an earlier episode that it's not just Omega's blood. It's basically everyone fits into like this giant puzzle. and
Right.
how does all of their blood samples and all of their things match together.
Yeah, like it's
But
almost like a DNA helix kind of thing, or like each
yes, yes,
piece is important, each blood sample is important to give the emperor what he wants.
yes, I want to see how that plays out. Like, what
Hmm.
is the end game behind that? What is the end result? But it was fun seeing Omega as like this soldier, like a tactical, she's got the plans, she knows everything. Whereas the other test subjects were kind of like how Omega was at the beginning of the series. She's now like this hardened veteran. She had the tool in her shirt sleeve pocket. She's like, "All right, listen up. This is how we're going to do this. I escaped from here before, and I'm going to do it again. I'm taking you guys with me."
Yeah.
Which that's that Omega positivity that we've been talking about on previous
Hmm.
episodes. It's contagious. We love to see it from
Yeah.
Omega.
Not only that Omega positivity, but she's because we've been talking about this season how she's kind of, you know, absorbed Crosshair's kind of swagger and personality, and that
Yes,
was on
yes,
full display here. Is like with the thing in her sleeve, that's a Crosshair move. Um, and I like Crosshair even had some good moments when they were talking
100%.
about Tantus and going back to Tantus. Crosshair kind of twitched a little bit of because that's where his PTSD
Yeah,
is coming from, not from from the outpost as we originally thought, but actually from Tantus, which I think we may have talked about.
yeah.
Um, but but yeah, seeing that again, I think it was in this episode where Crosshair like basically says trust Echo, which is a huge moment. Like was a huge moment for him to
Oh
say
yeah,
that, given how their relationship kind of ended last time they met. And so, yeah, lots of great character stuff here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to
yeah.
seeing how it shakes.
Man, it's just like I said, it's that calm before the storm. What is going to happen in these final 2 episodes? Can you believe it, Tim? We only got two
Two
episodes
episodes.
left of the Bad Batch,
It seems like it just started.
and but we are going to get right on the heels of the Bad Batch. It's Tales of the Empire starts the week of May 4th, right? Is that
Yeah,
right?
like just a few days after the
Yeah.
Bad Batch ends. And as I said on that podcast where we reviewed the Tales of the Empire trailer, which you can see in right over here on the side,
Yeah.
and you can watch it and see hear us talk about it. Um, I didn't think there was going to be anything after the Bad Batch, like at like
Mm.
for May 4th, but I'm glad that we're gonna get Tales of the Empire right after this. Right after we cry into our tissues over the Bad Batch ending, we get to experience some joy with Tales of the Empire.
Yeah, I'm like I said, it's bittersweet because I love these characters. I'd love to see it go on for longer, but then also I don't want it to overstay its welcome. I think they've done a good job telling the story of this ragtag group and kind of turning from the empire into the rebellion. Like that timeline of episode between episode 3 and 4 is so rich for stuff like Rogue One and
Mm-hmm.
and Andor and all these things. I'm really excited to see how this fits into the greater piece of the puzzle. This whole I think Filoni verse, like the Dave Filoni stuff that he's been telling this whole greater narrative. It's just going to be very interesting to see where this all plays out, like what happens at the end. Right now,
Yeah,
it's just there's still kind of a mystery of where somehow Palpatine returned. We're still talking about that.
I
Whether or
know.
not that's going to pay off is going to be one of the interesting things to see.
Yeah, one thing I've
But
really loved about this show, here we're talking about it like it's already over.
I,
One other thing I've loved about this show is how they've connected the prequel trilogy to the original trilogy, and it's been a slow burn throughout this show. As we saw, like it takes place right at like as Order 66 is going down. Like this is when the show is, telling its story, and we get to see how this affects clones and like that they learn that everybody all the Bad Batch learn throughout the course of this series that they are expendable to the Empire and that the Empire doesn't care about them. And Crosshair, it took a while for him to get to that point, but he eventually did get to that point. and to see Omega's part in it, the fact that like not only we're getting that, but we're also because when did this show premiere? Was it 2020 or was it after Rise of Skywalker? I can't remember.
Yes, 2021.
Okay. So, and the fact
May the
that
4th, 2021. Now that I'm
yes,
looking it up.
I remember it came out May the 4th, and my wife Heidi and I watched it together, and it was just a
Nice.
splendid time. May the 4th
Nice.
is always an exciting time around our house because we have May the 4th like basically like a family party where we like make Star
Nice.
Wars themed foods and stuff.
Ah,
And so
nice.
yeah.
Hey, I need to come over. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. It'll be fun. But it's something we've always done, and we actually did this for Infinity War 2. We did Marvel themed foods instead. Yeah,
Ooh,
it was. I have to show you pictures. It's fun.
nice.
But yeah, and so seeing kind of like we didn't think we were gonna get that somehow Palpatine return stuff, but
Right.
I love that we've talked about this before, and it's nice to see like everyone else kind of catching on too. Because I just saw an article the other day that I shared with you that was what they were talking about is like that they're answering this controversial Star Wars quote, which is somehow
Right.
Palpatine returns, which has gone down as like the worst quote in Star Wars history. And now we're getting this with Project Necromancer and I'm looking forward to seeing how things are going to go, not only with Omega, but also Dr. Carr and what her story arc is going to be, because we had that whole episode that focused on her.
Right.
So yeah,
Man, I'm really interested to see how it goes, and I would love for not only the Palpatine thing to be explained, but Snoke. Really, I want like a satisfying reason for Snoke, and I thought by this point in 2024, I thought it would have been a novel. I thought it would have been a comic book, but I don't know if people are afraid to touch Snoke or there's just not any ideas. Like they just don't have any good ideas for Snoke. But I would love to see one of these cloning things. We saw it in Mandalorian. We're seeing it here. Something be like, okay, this is how Snoke was created, or this is where he comes from, or something like that. Give me some type of an explanation, because him just showing up in the episode 7 and then he's gone in episode 8, and it's like, well, what was it? What was the whole big deal about Snoke? Did you read those Kylo Ren comics that came out?
The Rise of Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you read those? Was there some Snoke stuff in there?
There is some Snoke stuff in there, and there was some a Snoke one shot, but it's not about his origins. It's about like how
him training
Kylo Ren. So we haven't really gotten like where he came from. So
yeah, that's what I want. Tim, if you see it in a novel, let me know, because I'm itching to find out where is Snoke from. But speaking about the official or the former Vice Admiral at Rampart in this episode, he had some great comedic stuff, like kind of not like a fish out of water, but he's not in his element anymore. He's not like an officer, but he still has that Imperial knowledge.
Yeah.
And being able to like, this is, what I was made for. Like, this is what I was trained for. And to the point where like something technical happened and he's like, you expect me to know all of that? Like I'm not a tech officer. I'm an Imperial. So a lot of that stuff was kind of fun. Yeah. A lot of that stuff was fun with Rampart. And seeing, and then also like, this wasn't part of the deal. Like, we're altering the deal, right? Like, whatever it was, all of that stuff was funny to me, and I was laughing throughout this episode. There's a lot of comedy in this episode, and that's what I love, when you can blend that drama, comedy, action. That's like the Trinity trifecta of any good storytelling, I think.
You mentioned Rampart, and I mentioned at the top of the episode how he had that line where he like was like basically humiliated that they gave him a captain's uniform. That was another funny line.
Yes.
And there was another one where I don't know what they were doing, but they were doing something, and he says, "Well, I didn't become a vice admiral from my good looks." That was another funny line.
That was good.
Yeah, like it's not that he like he has the Imperial knowledge and he's a fish out of water, but he also doesn't want to be there. But he's like, helping the Bad Batch out of like, well, they got me out of jail, so I guess I'll help them out. So it's like kind of a matter of convenience. And
what Hunter said to him, he said, just remember that, like, or was it Hunter or Crosshair that was like, they betrayed you, so think about that before you betray us. Like that whole not trying to double cross them, and at any moment this, Rampart could double cross them, we don't know, but he has that loyalty to them because, like you said, they saved him, they helped him get out. So I like seeing the inner workings between, like, the them pulling the strings of each other, of, okay, you do this for me and I'll do this for you. We both have something that the other one wants, and so we're willing to let bygones be bygones, or play with the enemy for a little bit, the friend, the enemy of my friend
the
is my
enemy of my
friend,
enemy is my
whatever.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah. I like seeing that, like that, reluctant Rampart is to working with the Bad Batch. So yeah, just some really good stuff here.
Yeah, and for
Not
our listeners who forgot, we mentioned how the Empire betrayed Rampart, and when the Empire ordered the strike on Camino and Tapoca City at the end of season 1, which amazing animation,
That was
amazing
a great
action.
episode.
It was a great way to finish off that season. And when it became public, they pinned it all on Rampart. That was his idea. It was, his, like, and basically put him in an imperial prison, which is where the boys pick him up. And so yeah, I think he might want to betray them because they're considered aberrations and abominations in the sight of the Empire. But I think he probably does realize that the Empire betrayed him, and that they considered him as expendable as he probably once considered the Bad Batch. And
Yeah,
so
right.
I think he would be less likely. I mean, he's an Imperial officer, so you never know with these guys.
Right.
But I think he would be less likely to do it.
Yeah, he even had that line in this episode, "I hate clones." Like that. That was another comedic line that was in this episode. But it gets to that the interpersonal drama of Rampart and where he comes from, and transitioning the clones to stormtroopers. And I think they've kind of been trained to be like, hey, the clones are inferior, they're not real people. And the same argument with droids, right? Like, they don't have rights, they're not thinking sentient beings, so we don't care about them, we don't serve your kind here. And
Right.
I think the clones are the same way. Like, people look at them as, okay, that's not a human, that's not. And that's how we looked at them before the Clone Wars
Mm-hmm.
animated show. It was like, oh yeah, those are disposable guys, they can just die. The Clone Wars animated series and D. Bradley Baker, I will give the
Yes.
credit of
Yes.
making us care about clones, making us see them as individuals, and we want to see them now in their old age, like we saw in Rebels. We don't want to see them all die off. So I give full credit to Dave Filoni, even Kevin Kiner, like all of the people who are involved with all these animated shows, for making us care about the clones. I think they've just done a great job.
And you mentioned Kevin Kiner, and
Ooh,
he has done. He was again on full force. Whenever we went back to Tantus, we heard that mechanical machine-like
yeah.
theme, which we've heard like in other places where the Empire has been a presence. Kevin Kiner and his son and daughter have been just killing it this season. It's been great. It's been great.
I told you, I really hope we get a really good behind the scenes special feature on this, because I love finding out about how the sauce is made. I want to
Yeah.
see everything behind the scenes. So hopefully we get a really good documentary on that.
I just want a
But I
behind the scene. I just want a reel of D. Bradley Baker performing an entire episode, and and
That'd be good.
seeing like how in his face how he comes up with these characters and their distinct voice. I would like to see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I really love seeing anytime D. Bradley Baker is on screen. But I think that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Mr. Tim Costello, we got 2 episodes left. I cannot wait to see what happens for the rest of this series. And as I said, don't turn off this channel, because after the Bad Batch, we are going to be covering Tales of the Empire, and we're going to be talking about more High Republic stuff, hopefully more comic book stuff as well, because there's been some great stuff coming out in the comics, and there's just almost too much stuff to cover.
And more stuff coming out. They just announced that they're coming out with a Star Wars Inquisitors series coming out in July, which that's going to be exciting, especially considering Tales of the Empire and what that's going to have with Inquisitors. I'm excited because like Inquisitors is something that came out of Rebels, and ever since then it's just like every Star Wars thing, whether it be a video game, an animated series, even Obi-Wan has built on that and this idea of Inquisitors, and I'm excited for more of it.
Yeah. So let us know in your thoughts down below in the comments if you want to know more about what's going on in the Star Wars universe. Stay tuned here to Trust in the Force. I'm also going to be talking about Star Wars Outlaws when that game comes out. So we're going to have some video game coverage on this channel as well. Tim is going to be our High Republic expert, so he's going to be talking more High Republic stuff, and I will be joining him as well. So please, we would be honored if you would join us.
Trust only in the Force.